Hi, this is Steve Wagner, and this is a brief discussion of job analysis, sometimes referred to as work analysis. So what is it? Well, job analysis is a systematic study of the tasks and responsibilities that are entailed in a job and the human qualities or attributes that someone needs to perform those tasks and responsibilities. So job analysis is a collection of methods for understanding what a job consists of and what is required in order to perform that job. Now, there's two main products of the job analysis. One is the job description. This focuses on the job, the tasks of the job, the procedures, the tools and equipment that are used, the products and services of that job. This is different than a job specification. The job specification focuses more on the human attributes that are needed in order to perform that job. So sometimes we'll talk about KSAO'S, that's knowledge, skills, abilities, and other attributes. So a job specification often specifies the minimum qualifications, what type of attributes are necessary at day one starting a job. Sometimes it will also specify characteristics that differentiate high performers from average performers. These aren't the only products of a job analysis, just the most common products. Job analysis information is used at almost every stage of the human resource management process, from recruiting, when we're trying to figure out what to put in an ad or a realistic job preview, we need to know what's done on the job. From hiring, when we're thinking about what questions we should ask in a job interview or what tests might be useful for selection, we need job analysis information for that too. For giving feedback on performance, for designing training, for determining compensation, for safety reasons, we need to analyze jobs. And for so many other things in human resource management, we need job analysis information. And so when we're interviewing people, we're generally looking for subject matter experts. Sometimes we refer to those as SMEs. So generally these are incumbents, people who are already doing the job. But usually we want to talk to those people's supervisors, their subordinates, their customers, to get a full range of experts about the job. Now, interviews can be structured or open-ended. Generally, we want a little bit of both. We want to know some of the questions in advance, but we want the flexibility of having open-ended questions too. So the great thing about interviewing is that we get very detailed information, and it also allows us for flexibility in data collection. The incumbents or other subject matter experts might tell us something that we didn't anticipate, and an interview allows for that kind of flexibility. Now, like we'll see in most of these methods, there is the potential for people to misrepresent their job. And people do this both for conscious and unconscious reasons. People might think that if they make their job look more important, that they'll get paid more. But they also might just unconsciously just understand their job, inflate the influence or importance of their job. So there is a disadvantage that interviewing can be time consuming, and therefore it is expensive. We have to consider that the time is money, both in terms of salary and benefits and lost productivity. And so hopefully we make the most of that time and we get information that is useful. So here's some tips for making that interviewing time more useful. First, be prepared for the interview. You should start by doing some homework about the job ahead of time and design specific questions. Again, leave some room for flexibility, but you shouldn't go into a job analysis interview knowing nothing about the job. You should know something about the job. Always explain to the person that you're interviewing why you are there. Sometimes these interviews can be threatening to people. They may believe that their job might be downsized. And so now this is rarely the reason for doing a job analysis interview, and so you wouldn't want to make people believe that because it might affect how they perform their jobs. It might stress them out. Try and be as sincere as you can in your interest about the interviewee and his or her job. Their job is a big part of their life. And so, and it's probably very important to the organization, or there wouldn't be that job. Show a sincere interest. Never try and tell an interviewee how to do the job. You're there to listen as an interviewer. So just ask questions and listen. As you are talking to interviewees, try and talk in their own language. So if you can get a handle on the jargon that surrounds the job and understand that ahead of time, it makes the interviewee more comfortable, and it helps them to communicate with you. Also, try and keep the interview on track. What I find is oftentimes in focus groups in particular that people may turn a job analysis interview into a gripe session. And while you need to acknowledge the concerns that people have, you have to reinforce the purpose for an interview and make sure that it stays on track. So another method that we can use is observation and participation. Ideally, if you're observing someone doing the job, you should be observing multiple someones doing the job, different incumbents, because different people approach the job in different ways. You should also try and observe the job at different times of day or on different days of the week, because the demands of the job may differ across the span of the day or the span of the week. So you want your observations to be as representative as possible. Observations tend to work best when you're talking about jobs that involve manual operations, like manufacturing jobs, things that are more repetitive in nature and are easily seen. So what's great about observation and participation is that it gives you great information about the job context. And if you participate, it really helps you to see what does it take to do this job. What are the physical demands? Is there boredom involved? Is there a lot of different inputs in terms of information? Sometimes you don't get this information just from an interview. You have to experience it or observe it in the context that it's taking place. Now, there are some disadvantages to observation and participation. One is the Hawthorne effect. This means that people tend to act differently when they know that they're being observed. Being observed may lead people to try and put on the best face. And so we have to take that into account. And in many cases, observation and participation can be impractical. If jobs are very hazardous, or if jobs involve a lot of mental activities, then they're difficult to observe. Now, another thing that we should always look to in job analysis is existing data. So are there training manuals? Are there job analyses that have been done in the past? Job descriptions, perhaps that have been updated periodically? What about performance appraisal instruments? All of these things should give us clues about what's taking place on this job. And so usually when I'm doing job analysis, this is where I want to start. Oftentimes it's not hard to get this information. It's the first thing you ask for is, will you send me any of the training manuals or information that you have already on this job? It's great preliminary information, and it helps you to design an interview, or what we'll see next, a survey. Now, surveys or questionnaires are very efficient ways of getting job analysis information. And you can administer a survey like this to a large number of job incumbents and get the data fairly quickly. You might be asking people to rate how difficult tasks are relative to one another, how much time they spend on different tasks, how critical errors are for tasks, or how important different tasks are for job success, or how important different characteristics like knowledge or skills are for job success. So the big advantage here is, again, efficiency. We can save a lot of time, which makes this relatively inexpensive. It also gets us information from a lot of different people, so we get many different perspectives at once. Again, a disadvantage may be that people misrepresent their job. Another thing that I see is that job analysis surveys often are very long, and people experience fatigue as they're filling out a questionnaire with hundreds and hundreds of items. And so the accuracy of their responses may wane towards the end of a long survey. So in general, I would say strive to keep a job analysis survey as concise as possible. So critical incidence technique, collect anecdotes, stories about very successful or very unsuccessful on the job behaviors. Those are the critical incidents. What led up to the behavior? What did a person actually do? And what was the result of that behavior? And again, we try and focus on whether that was very successful or unsuccessful. And usually what we do is try and collect a lot of different examples, and then we sort these into categories. Now, this is a great method for getting descriptive information about how people perform on a job. And in my experience, it's very well suited for performance appraisal and for training. I haven't found it to be as useful for things like selection or compensation. Critical incidents tend to focus on very extreme behaviors rather than typical behaviors, so it's limited in its applicability. Another specific method that we should discuss is the position analysis questionnaire. This is a standardized questionnaire developed by McCormick and his associates at Purdue University. It pertains to 194 different job elements, which are basically specific work behaviors. And we have subject matter experts rate how relevant those behaviors are to the job that they're doing. And then that is analyzed and organized into different categories. The great thing about the position analysis questionnaire is it can be used for any job, and it's a great way of comparing jobs or classifying jobs. So we often see the position analysis questionnaire used in compensation studies. It's relatively inexpensive, and it's fairly easy to use. And it is a fairly lengthy questionnaire. It is something that has to be interpreted by an expert. It also requires a fairly high reading level, and so that's a consideration when you're thinking about what kind of job to apply this to. Now, what I think is one of the most useful job analysis methods, specific methods, is the Occupational Information Network. This is not only a specific method of job analysis, but it is a database of job analysis information that is maintained and was developed by the U.S. Department of Labor, Employment and Training Administration. So it's a publicly available database of occupational information. It's great for doing initial homework on a job. And you'll see there that I have the website for ONET. I think any human resource professional should be well versed in using ONET. What many are not familiar with is that they do provide their standardized job analysis questionnaire on their website. And so I think it's a great way if you're collecting new information. So here we've got the model for the ONET. And what's great is it's so flexible. It collects information that is worker-oriented in that it's looking at the abilities and values that a worker has to have, their skills and knowledge and experience, all of those things that we expect in terms of the human attributes. But it also focuses on the job itself. What are the work activities? What is the organizational context? What is the labor market and the tools and technology that are used for the job? So it covers both the worker-oriented side and the job-oriented side. It is good for getting information about a specific job, but it also allows you to compare across occupations.